I'm Dr. Toby Halowitz, a naturopathic medical doctor and acupuncturist trained in the classics of Chinese medicine. I have been practicing holistic healing in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Spokane Valley, Washington, for about 10 years now. In March, we moved into our beautiful new large office space on Sherman Avenue in downtown Coeur d'Alene. With increased office space, we are increasing the services we offer. CDA Acupuncture and Holistic Healing is an integrative healthcare clinic and center of healing resources, focusing on holistic healing through the interconnectedness of the individual, families, community, and our natural environment. With an emphasis on returning to nature, we balance tried and true healing modalities of the past with evidence based modern natural therapies. Over the course of the next week, we will be posting videos from our providers providing insights and support for the darkness we have all experienced in the course of 2020. Then, on Sunday, December 20th at 4:30 p.m., we will be having a virtual live event. Please feel free to forward these recordings to friends and family and to those who you know who could use some extra support and inspiration. Before introducing this winter solstice event, I would like to quickly outline our growth and our future plans. In addition to Sarah and Sherilyn, we welcome Megan, Julie, and Susan to our dedicated, caring team of support staff. We have brought on two new naturopathic medical doctors. Dr. Brianna focuses on women's health, including gynecological exams and hormone balancing. Dr. Esty is coming on board with a lot of experience in regenerative medicine, including IV nutritional therapy, prolotherapy, platelet-rich plasma, and stem cell injection therapies. As naturopathic medical doctors, we are now fully licensed as primary care providers in Idaho, as we have been in Washington. This will allow for increased insurance coverage in Idaho. In April, we were thrilled to bring on Sally Shaw to grow the acupuncture and Chinese medicine services offered. We have added two experienced massage therapists in Jason Griffin and our very own Sherilyn Long, who you may also know as our receptionist and special projects manager. In addition to my wife Brigitte, we have added three new estheticians who focus on holistic skincare: Casey Gibbs, Angela Fox, and Holly Klickna. Nikki Peters is a registered nurse who is joining our practice to help with nutrition and lifestyle counseling and assist in IV therapy. We are also excited to have Dr. Justin Frederick, a medical doctor who will be consulting and working with patients to support mental wellness. In our lower level spaces, we are now offering blood draws for our expanding list of laboratory services. We hope to have our Constitutional Hydrotherapy Center up and running very soon. Also, downstairs, we are working on setting up our nutritional IV therapy area, a community room where we will be able to offer educational talks, therapeutic art sessions, yoga, qigong, tai chi, and meditation classes. We are located extremely close to picturesque Tubbs Hill, a 120-acre park extending into Lake Coeur d'Alene. Wanting to further utilize our proximity to this gorgeous and powerfully healing natural resource, we are very excited to be bringing on board two counselors who focus on ecotherapy, Joseph McCaffrey and Alexis Lyon. These counselors are integral in helping the clinic achieve its goals of supporting the community with increased nature immersion therapies. They are the impetus for this winter solstice project. It has been quite a journey to get here, and I'm very excited for what the future will bring. I was drawn here for the community and this area's love of nature. I believe most of us are drawn to live here for a common reason: the way we feel immersed and nestled in the beauty of the clear blue lakes, breathe in the scents of forest and shores, and reside swaddled by the mountains of ponderosa pine. We are lucky. Rather than living in a city of geometric slabs of concrete, we are able to interact with the landscape in a deep and profound way. Every day, if we open our windows or go for a walk in the neighborhood, we are communing with the natural landscape. I am extremely appreciative and gracious for the opportunity to provide care to thousands of patients and family in the inland northwest area over the past 10 years. I have been accepted and trusted as part of this community. It is so important with everything we have been going through over recent years, and then with the emotional turmoil of politics, pandemic, divisions, and loss of 2020. Many of us live in fear. There is so much fear. It can be crippling at times. I see it with my patients, my friends, my family, and within me. Sometimes it is hard for us to find the will to go on. What reserves do we pull from? Where do we find the strength? We know this. The answer is why we have community, friends, family, colleagues, and religion. But this community also includes the more than human earth. Just as we lean on our community in times of need, where each one of us in the community supports each other, so too does the community of nature. We must lean on nature, the area where we live and work, and include it as part of our community, for us to gain strength, for us to heal. I will start by sharing my personal nature immersion healing experience, which set me on my course to become a holistic healer. Then I will briefly review the energy patterns in nature, what the ancient Chinese scientists observed and recorded as the 5 energy phases that exist in nature and in the human body. We will examine the opportunity of the winter solstice and the supportive energy of our source qi and the kidney jur. And lastly, I will demonstrate a qigong exercise which can be used when needed to strengthen the kidneys, shine light on fears, and to deeply connect with the community of nature. Let's set the stage with my healing experience up in the mountains of Austria. My wife, Brigitte, was raised in Hochgamik, a small town nestled high in the beautiful mountains of Tyrol, Austria. She was influenced by an alpine culture that aspired to live in harmony with nature, comprised mainly of farmers whose daily life is governed by the will of the mountains. This culture views health not in terms of medical technology, but as a balance of self amongst the external landscape. The air they breathe, the food they eat, the conditions they work in essence, the total environment are all vital components to living a healthy life. Hochgelmik has become my spiritual home. Here, my mother-in-law fed me all natural food, made me heaven key tea from flowers grown on the mountain. And she graciously began to teach me some of the means to live naturally. It is here amongst this culture and this alpine landscape where I really feel the closest to my nature. On one visit in July of 1997, Brigitte and I spent the summer working on a nearby alm with Brigitte's father, mother, and brother, Karl Josef. An alm is a type of dairy farm isolated from any village, nestled up high in the valleys of the high peaks of the Alps. 2 years before this trip, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. At this time, I was feeling very ill, both physically and emotionally. I was in severe pain, had constant diarrhea, and I had no appetite. There were even periods during this time when I would vomit every day. I had many struggles and painful events to deal with in my life up to this point. I grew up on the standard American diet. I used to brag to my friends how I would drink 2 liters of soda a day. My father, who was a medical doctor, put me on countless antibiotics as a boy for the colds and sinus infections that I would have. Additionally, growing up, I was traumatized by a family secret which I internalized. It ate away on my guts from the inside. At this time in my life, I felt like I didn't have a purpose. I had always wanted to be a doctor, but after graduating college, I knew it wasn't right for me to go off to an allopathic conventional medical school. My undergraduate education revealed the complexities of political and business influences on medicine and their effects on medical decision making. This, coupled with difficulties I witnessed from my father, who had an integrative practice pioneering in the treatment of chronic fatigue syndrome patients, it discouraged me from entering the profession I had always longed for as a boy. Now, here in another country, I was dispirited, lost, miserable, and very, very ill at the time of this trip. I was in dire need of soul searching. I didn't know how to search my soul, but I knew I had to make changes in my life. Prior to this trip, I bought books that were supposed to help, but of course I didn't read them. I was in crisis and something had to give. Up here on this mountain, I cried out. I really poured my soul out to whoever was listening. What am I doing here? What is my path? Why am I so sick? What is the point to all this misery? Somebody, anybody, please help me. One day I felt called to go for a hike and to go up the mountain by myself. I'd been on this trail before with Carl Yusuf, but this was the first time I ventured by myself. While hiking up the mountains alone, my senses became alive. The nature was so intense. I felt the sun warming my arms. The colors were brighter. My eyes were drawn to every passing bush and boulder. I smelled the sweetness of the forest. I tasted the dried dirt kicked up by my boots. The sounds, the chatter of birds, the crackle and babble of the stream. My mind quiet, few thoughts, but the realization that I no longer felt sick. I wasn't sick. I'd forgotten what health felt like. I remembered living. I had been drinking water from a crisp, clean mountain stream, been breathing fresh, unpolluted mountain air, and had been eating simple, unadulterated, and very nourishing food. I walked further up the trail. I took time to gaze out upon the blue sky and distant mountains. I walked amongst the most beautiful magenta mountain roses, and cupping my hands, I drank directly from a tumbling spring. The water was just so alive and vital with energy. I sensed it knew a secret, something it had been waiting for eternity to let me in on. I climbed still further up the now narrowing path. I felt compelled to stop. I gazed out to the mountain peak across the valley. I was moved to tears with emotion. It was here, amongst the evergreens, the bluebirds and marmots, and in this particular spot, on this very large earth, in this place in which my heart recognized as home, that I heard it. It was my calling, and it spoke to me with all my senses. It was my voice deep inside my chest, and it was my voice inside my head, and it was also the voice of this mountain and the trees in front of me. It was strong, it was powerful, and it said matter-of-factly, "This is me. This is how I need to live my life. I want to live in tune with nature. I want to help people, everyone, not just the sick, to learn how to live healthy. I want to learn this, and I want to teach this." Immersing yourself in nature has a profound effect on your health. Research has shown that it positively affects your immune system, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, helps with stress reduction, emotional health, and mental function. Shinrin Yoku is a traditional Japanese practice of immersing oneself in nature by mindfully using all five senses. It literally translates as a forced bathing. I like to use the term nature immersion or nature therapy. A Shinrin Yoku trip to Japan involves visiting a forest for relaxation and recreation while breathing in volatile substances called phytonicides, natural chemical compounds found in the essential oils of the forest trees. Alpha-pinene and limonene are two examples of the antimicrobial volatile organic compounds derived from trees. In Japan, incorporating forest bathing trips into a good lifestyle was first proposed in 1982 by the Forest Agency of Japan. Research conducted in Japan and China points to a host of positive health benefits for the human physiological and psychological systems associated with the practice of nature immersion. During the 1980s, Shinrin-yoku surfaced in Japan as a pivotal part of preventive healthcare and healing in Japanese medicine. The reported research findings associated with healing components of Shinrin-yoku specifically hones in on the therapeutic effects of the immune system function. It has an increase in natural killer cells and cancer prevention. Research has also shown it to be helpful for cardiovascular system, including hypertension and coronary artery disease. Also the respiratory system, allergies and respiratory disease, depression and anxiety, mood disorders and stress, mental relaxation, helping with attention deficit, hyperactivity disorders, and human feelings of awe. It's been shown to increase our ability to sense gratitude and selflessness. Dr. Ching Li is one of the most important early pioneers in researching Shinrin-yoku. In his recent beautiful book entitled Forest Bathing, How Trees Can Help You Find Health and Happiness, he reviews the history, research, and importance of Shinrin-yoku. He states, "We all know how good being in nature can make us feel. We have known it for millennia. The sounds of the forest, the scent of the trees, the sunlight playing through these leaves, the fresh, clean air. These things give us a sense of comfort. They ease our stress and worry. They help us to relax and to think more clearly. Being in nature can restore our mood, give us back our energy and vitality, refresh and rejuvenate us." Dr. Ching Li said of himself, "Some people study forests. Some people study medicine. I study forest medicine to find out all the ways in which walking in the forest can improve our well-being." We are part of the natural world. Our rhythms are the rhythms of nature. As we walk slowly through the forest, seeing, listening, smelling, tasting, and touching, we bring our rhythms into step with nature. Shinrin-yoku is like a bridge. By opening our senses, it bridges the gap between us and the natural world. And when we are in harmony with the natural world, we can begin to heal. Our nervous system can reset itself. Our bodies and minds can go back to how they ought to be. No longer out of kilter with nature, but once again in tune with it. We are refreshed and restored. We may not travel very far on our forest walk, but in connecting us with nature, Shinrin-yoku takes us all the way home to our true selves. The concept that humans have a biological need to connect with nature has been called biophilia, from the Greek meaning love of life and the living world. The concept was made popular by the American biologist E.O. Wilson in 1984. He believed that because we evolved in nature, we have a biological need to connect with it. We love nature because we learned to love the things that helped us to survive. We feel comfortable in nature because that is where we have lived for most of our life on Earth. We are genetically determined to love the natural world. It is in our DNA. And this affinity for the natural world is fundamental to our health. Contact with nature is as vital to our well-being as regular exercise and a healthy diet. Our existence depends on this propensity. Our spirit is woven from it. Hope rises on its current, wrote Wilson. We are hardwired to affiliate with the natural world. And just as our health improves when we are in it, so our health suffers when we are divorced from it. In his book, The Biophilia Effect, a scientific spiritual exploration of the healing bond between humans and nature, Clemens Harvey describes the forest as a more than human landscape. He says, "Let's look at the forest for a moment in a different way. Let's see it as a large, highly complex habitat in which thousands upon thousands of living beings communicate with each other. The tree crowns are radio stations that broadcast plant messages through the air. The leaves of shrubs, bushes, vines, and herbaceous plants transmit plant vocabulary, which is received by other plants and animals. In the ground, roots release substances that also contain messages and make a clicking noise that the human ear cannot hear. Plants detect these sounds as physical subterranean vibrations. The forest, just like any other natural habitat, is a place of lively discussion and is dense with communication. Whizzing around everywhere, molecules contain information that other living creatures decode. Among them are countless terpenes. Now imagine entering this forest, a hotspot of communication, with your alert, attentive, as well as constantly communicating immune system. Your immune system doesn't only communicate with other organs and systems in your body, it also communicates with the outside world. It is a sensory organ that is made to receive information that you are unable to consciously perceive. Some of the responsibilities of your immune system are to recognize, assess, and react to stimuli from the outside world. These stimuli could be viruses, bacteria, and all kinds of other substances. The immune system is therefore your body's invisible antenna as you enter the woods. When you breathe in the woods, you're inhaling a cocktail of bioactive substances that plants release into the forest air. One of these groups of substances is called terpenes. When we walk through the woods, we come into contact with gaseous terpenes of plant communication. We absorb them through the skin, but especially through the lungs. The terpenes in the air come from tree leaves and pine needles. They also flow out of tree trunks and the thick bark of some trees. Bushes, shrubs, and herbaceous plants among the understory, along with mushrooms, mosses, and ferns, emit them as well. Even the litter layer made of foliage and the moldy humus layer swarming with life emit terpenes. When I learned this, my impression of the forest changed. Now, when I walk through the woods, I have the feeling I'm diving into an enormous breathing organism that communicates with me. I become part of it, and we breathe and communicate together. I am in nature, nature is in me. Me, you, and nature are community. The early developments of both Western conventional medicine and traditional Chinese medicine began with the expression of the human condition in terms of a more than human world, a world where humans actively participated with all of the phenomena and manifestations existing in the universe. Both Eastern and Western medical systems were predicated on the observation that energy patterns observed in nature not only influence the human body, but are observed themselves in the body. What occurs in the macrocosm, outside in nature, also occurs in the microcosm, inside the human body. Early on in both the East and West, this was a core tenet shared by both systems' theoretical composition. Classical Chinese medicine remains rooted to the observation that the laws and energetic patterns of nature are the same laws that govern human health. The system of correspondence is fully integrated into classical Chinese medical theory, and we'll talk more about this in a short bit. The CCM doctor has historically aspired to the Tao of medicine, a process which requires the actualization of his or her individual path by working to become a self-realized being using Qigong meditation, music, calligraphy, painting, poetry, and ritual journeys. He first seeks to thoroughly understand the workings of his own body transformations, and then naturally becomes a teacher who is capable of instructing others how to regulate their body's qi metabolism and hence reconnect to nature. One of the main objectives of the nature doctor is to assist people back to equilibrium, not only with the body, but with the external environment with which we actively participate. Five-element theory is one of the major systems of thought within traditional Chinese medicine, also referred to as the five phases. Five-element theory has been used for more than 2,000 years as a method of diagnosis and treatment. The mother matrix of Chinese science is the principle of movement. Throughout millions of years, human beings have observed and participated in the constant cycles of nature. All life conforms to the cycle of birth, growth, climax, aging, and death. The life cycle is the same for all entities, for the sun, earth, moon, plant, and rock. Human beings follow the same natural laws of earth. Humans imitate earth and are subordinate to its laws. As the modern Taoist Hua Qingni asserts, in spring they were lively, in summer vivacious, in autumn they gathered themselves, and in winter they prepared for return. Thus mankind achieved an existence here on earth that was in harmony with the divine order of the universe. This passage describes the quintessence of what has been termed the law of correspondence. The system of correspondence developed during the last parts of the Zhou period in China. This system, as stated by Chinese historian Paul Unshold, recognizes that not just one, two, or a limited number of elements form a line of correspondence, but that most, if not all, natural occurrences and abstract concepts can be incorporated into a single system of correspondence. In essence, it considers that the human body is constantly modifying its body structure and adjusting its functions to adapt to the ever-changing environment. Our genes even prepare us in this manner through epigenetic mechanisms. The structure and function of the human body, the microcosm, directly corresponds with the structure and function of the more than human world, the macrocosm. Essentially, five-element theory is used to help explain the cause of particular diseases. Five-element theory is used to help explain the cause of particular diseases and to associate signs or symptoms to particular organs and afflictions. In the context of phases, five-element theory helps to explain the processes that are occurring in the body throughout various stages of disease and healing. Just as we move through seasons from winter to spring, spring to summer, summer to fall, fall to winter, these same patterns that we see out in nature also happening inside our bodies. And they also correspond to our internal organs. I want to talk a little bit about yin-yang theory. What is yin and what is yang? So the terms and the symbols that are used and the original understanding of yin and yang have to do with what's happening out in nature. So if we were just to take a hill and the sun shining, during daytime, that's yang. That energy that we see from the sun, that's yang. At nighttime, it's dark, it's cold, that's yin. But during the day, if we are looking at that hill, even though the sun is shining and it's warm and there's a lot more energy during the day, a lot more chi. If we look at the backside of the hill, it's still day there. It's just getting shade. So there's still some darkness within the yang, within the energy. So there's shade within light. If we look at yin, so it's at nighttime, it's dark, it's colder, but there's still a side of the hill that's getting some moonlight. That side, we would say that there's some yang within inside the yin. Whereas on the dark side, it's yin and yin. So The very first component of yin and yang is what we call the wuji, or the state before heaven and earth. It's also known as the Tao itself. In numerology, it is the number 0. It's perfect circulation without beginning or end. This is the original state of everything. This is emptiness and nothingness. It symbolizes the wholeness and purity of nature as one life without any polarity. This is the Tai Chi symbol. It represents the number 1, the unity of everything following the energetic state of Wuji, the primordial cosmic Qi. But there's some inner momentum that's generated by the Wuji. It starts creating 2 opposing movements. The dynamic Qi state of Tai Chi. It is a symbol of the universal life force of movement. Yin and Yang, the one gives birth to the 2. Energy separates into 2. The momentum of Tai Chi gave birth to 2 types of Qi, a heavy Qi, the dark Qi, and the light Qi. Moving in opposite directions, the heavy Qi, Yin, descends to form the earth, while the light Qi, Yang, rose to form the sky and heaven. Yin and Yang allows people to understand something through the expression of opposites. Something could have more yin or something could have more yang. But it has to be in comparison. You have to frame it. The opposition of yin and yang is the motive force of all the changes, development, and decay of things. Everything contains yin and yang, but it is always in changing balance. Yin and yang cannot exist without each other. Yin and yang transform into each other. So if you look at the white area of this yin and yang symbol, you see that there's a black circle in the middle. And if you look at the bottom of the black, the yin component of the yin and yang, there's a white circle. This means that there's always some lightness, some brightness, some yang within yin. There's light in darkness. And that's what we're seeing during the winter solstice. When the night is the most dark, the night is the longest, and the days are the shortest, there is this growing yang. There is this brightness deep inside the darkest day. We can look at yang in terms of it's what we see in nature. It is an expanding energy. It is active. It is ascending, moving upwards. It is above. It's in heaven. It can be a masculine energy, but it's always in comparison. So that one always gets me in trouble. We're talking about masculine and feminine. We'll have to have a whole talk on this at one point. It's outside. It's hot. It's dryness. It's related to energy, light. It's the exterior. It moves fast. It's rapid. We associate it with the mind or being restless, transformation. The yin energy is more contracting in nature. It's more substantive, can be more passive, descending, underneath, dark. The earth is considered yin. Again, it has more of a feminine energy to it. Inside, let's go back to feminine and male energy. Someone can be a male, but also have more feminine energy and vice versa. Or as it relates to certain functions, something could be more yin or more yang. But the actual being female would be a yin, and the sex of male would be a yang. Already got in trouble with that one. We'll move on. Cold, watery, matter, heavy, soft, hidden. Its energy is inside, in the interior. It's a slower energy. It's more physical, so it's when we think of the body as opposed to the mind. The body is yin. It's quieter. It's dark. The body's blood and fluids are considered yin. The tissue in our body is considered yin. So let's map this out. In the spring, or the vernal equinox, and also relates to the time of day. So in dawn, that yang energy is just starting. The light is starting to grow. The spring energy is starting to grow. We're coming out of winter. It's this birthing, dilating, filling energy. And that energy keeps growing until we get to the summer solstice. And that is when everything is at its brightest. The plants and flowers are in full maturity. It's like the midday sun. We get to the completion of growing. And then the energy starts going down. Even at the summer solstice, the days start getting shorter. The nights start getting longer. Until we get to fall, or the dusk energy, where the sun is setting. And here, the nights keep getting longer. We start getting more into winter. The energy starts going more and more underground as we get into fall. The leaves, they dry up and they fall down, and the flowers are gone. It's definitely a much more yin energy. And then we get to winter solstice, to midnight, the darkest hour. The nights are the longest. The days are the shortest. We have the least amount of light. We kind of associate this with death, right? Things aren't living or aren't vibrant. We would look at the landscape and think that, well, it's dead, that there's emptiness. But there's yearning and there's germination, and things are happening underground. And just as we approach midnight, just as we approach winter solstice, there's nowhere to go but to start moving up. And that light starts increasing. And the days start getting longer. And that yang energy keeps rising. And we start coming out of fear. And then we get to a new dawn. And we get to the vernal equinox. And we get to spring. And we start with birth again. We start expanding. We start moving forward with more and more energy. And if you graph this out, the top part of if you made an XY graph, the going up, the Y, that's how much yin and how much yang we have. Yin going down, yang going up. And going across, that's the seasons, the time. And so you get a sine wave. And that sine wave, it doesn't stop. It never ends. It's constant. And that is the motive force behind the yin and yang. And it graphs out. That's the picture. And then we can look at those energy patterns, and we can understand that in spring, there's more yang energy than in fall and winter. But in summer, it has the most. And so we can start seeing how that plays out in the world, in the nature, but also inside. So this energy pattern corresponds with the 5 phases and the 5 elements and the 5 organs. So let's go to winter. What do we see with winter? The element is water. The organ is the kidney. It's also paired with the bladder. The direction is north. You can kind of think of the ocean, the deep ocean. It's salty. It's deep inside. It's the deepest part of your body. It's the bones. The colors are blue and black. And it connects to the organ, to the ears. So we can go into all this detail, and we will at some point, but not tonight, not today. But what I want to do is talk a little bit more about winter and the kidneys and the kidney zhi. In Chinese medical theory, the kidneys are paired with the phase element water in the system of correspondence. The kidneys house the Chinese term zhi, or willpower. Will is the determination of the mind. It bends the mindset in a certain direction and controls its activity. According to Chinese scholar Elizabeth Rochat, it is what helps you achieve goals, but it is also a deep and strong aspiration of the whole being. If what one aspires to is aligned with what is beneficial for life, the will serves the development and achievement of the being. If what we aspire to is in keeping with our original nature, the will is a constant reminder of what is right and drives us toward the fulfillment of our destiny. Thus, we keep the way of harmony. Water is linked to the origin and beginnings of life, as are the kidneys within a human being. In Chinese medicine theory, the kidneys contain the source qi we were born with. They are also the solid basis for the interplay of yin and yang in all the organs. As long as the yin and yang of the kidneys are strong and balanced, the organs can function fully and well. The kidneys house the zhi, our willpower. Just like the tides of the ocean, the currents of the sea, and the force of a river, the kidneys power us to overcome obstacles. According to Rochat, they ensure the continuous flow of life and maintain the identity within each human being, which is to remain faithful to one's original endowment and to live one's original potentiality in one's personal life. That is to accomplish one's destiny. The kidney zhi give us the strength to keep going, to endeavor and fulfill our promise in experiencing and participating in life as human beings. During this winter solstice, embrace and support your kidneys and the kidney zhi. I would like to share with you a component taken from a Qigong form I teach. Qigong literally means working with the life force and learning how to control the flow and distribution of qi to improve the health and harmony of one's mind and body. The practice involves meditation, subtle movement, visualization, and breathing techniques. We will be integrating the 5 elements phases into a warm-up form from Master Wang, lineage holder of the Jin Gong school of Qigong that was taught to me when I was in medical school. Now it's time to go inside and connect with your body, your kidney zhi, and shed light on your fears. The voice recording of this Qigong exercise will be separate so that you can listen to it more often and practice at home. You can have the audio running in the background to assist you. If you are able to take the recording with you and go outside, connect with the energy pattern of winter solstice in your personal nature surroundings. This recording and all of the videos and recordings will be available on our Mighty Networks platform. Practice this exercise the best you can on your own, and then we will all do it together during the live winter solstice virtual event.